Hello, this is Brian of Bimser International, and today we'll be going over Beam, a enterprise asset management system to help your company manage their assets. In Beam, there is the asset module, and when we click on it, we can see the assets over here, which leads us to an asset list, which lists all the current assets your company has. So we can see a bunch of assets that have been added. And if you need to add a new asset, we can click add and it'll give us an option to choose from which your company can define. So for example, let's say we're adding equipment. So all we need is a code, an asset code. So let's say the asset this time is a computer. We can add the asset status. So we can add if it's currently operating or not, which can also be defined in the system. And we can add a group. So yeah, we can see here, equipment. The asset type has already been defined by previously selecting one of the options from before. And we can select the department. So we can select where this asset's located. And we can also add more information if necessary, but this is just the most basic information to add an asset. Once it's saved, it'll go right into the asset list, and we can see that it'll be added. So their equipment, we can see it's been added right here. Now, we can also click on any existing asset right here, and we can see information about it, any information about it. So as we can see, this asset is active, it's compressor with CMPRS01 code. And yeah, you can see information that was added or inputted when it was added. Inside the asset module, we can also see the asset tree. What this does is it shows us the tree of all the assets, basically. And we can see all the locations, this company, Milestone. We can see all location it operates in. And we can select the New York headquarters. And we can see all the assets that are located in New York specifically. So it's just a way to divide and separate assets that may be located in different areas. Moving on, we can go see that the asset module also has a map feature. What this is it basically allows your company to integrate with things like Google Map, which will allow your company to globally track your assets. So you can keep track of all your assets in real time by integrating with things like Google Map. We also have a graphical asset tree, and what that allows us to do is it allows us to insert a blueprint plan that your company might have, and we can add any assets we see onto the blueprint plan. And we can see when we hover over it, there's more information about that specific asset that was inserted. And we can see if it's active or not, as well as the owner, what group it belongs to, and where it is. If we click on it, we also have more options such as creating a work request, a work order, or just seeing the history of the asset, as well as more. This is all tracked in real time as well, and it is a second option to the Google Maps integration. Under the assets modules, we can also generate a report. So when you want to generate a report on the assets, we can filter it by, let's say, code, its location, its group, or its status. If we don't want to filter anything, we can just generate a report, and it'll generate a list of, or it'll make a report based on all the assets in the company. So we can see all the active assets as well as maybe down. Now, moving on to maintenance module, we can see work requests. So employees can make work requests based on assets that may have malfunction or needs maintenance. And we can do that by adding a fast request. And we can select priority, so maybe it's of normal priority and is sort of neutral. We can have it set as emergency or low if it's not really required for that much urgency. Okay, and we can select the asset code, which will basically be us selecting which asset is down. So it'll pull from the asset list any asset that needs to be fixed or that needs fixing. We can select who's requested by default, it'll be the user that has generated the page or generated the work request. We can select the work type of the work request. So it could be cleaning, it could be incidents, mechanical, or transportation. And we can select the failure code. So it could be, let's say, a mechanical failure. And write the definition after selecting an asset. So after that, we can generate a fast request, a fast work request. And we can see it's been added right here. And if we go over to the work orders, we can now see that it has been added to the list of requests. And we can close it out to, let's say, if someone finishes maintaining or performing maintenance, they can close out the work order. And we can see right here the work order kind, services, asset code, department code, priority, type, failure code, and who it's requested by. We can see all this information here. We can also see the planned date that maintenance was performed or will be performed. And we can see, we can change the actual date if the planned date is missed. And after that, we can assign the maintenance and responsible operator who's responsible for it. And after that, after they perform all the necessary steps, they can close out the work order and maintenance will have been performed. It's also possible to do preventive maintenance on objects that may need periodic maintenance. So, for example, it's possible to add a preventive maintenance plan. So we can do that by selecting an asset and the failure code for it. And we can select if it's going to be performed based on time or based on a different counter. So let's say, for example, we want to perform it three times, or we want to perform maintenance every 3 days. We can also make it every 3 weeks or 3 months. And when we select it, when we select the unit period, we can see the next maintenance date, which it'll be performed on. If we want to use the counter instead, we can use the counter instead of time for things like vehicles where mileage is being tracked. So if the mileage passes, let's say, 1,000 miles, then a maintenance form can be created for every 1,000 mile it hits automatically. Moving on to the materials module, we can view all the materials in the company, and we can add new materials as required. This is basically spare inventory that your company may use to fix certain assets. So we can add the material code description, as well as what kind of units it's measured in, if it's measured in like pieces or if it's measured in liquid ounces or otherwise. It can be selected. So after filling out all the information on materials, on a certain material, we can see existing, or we can see current materials added. So for example, a screw, it's measured in pieces, and we can click on it and access it and see information about a screw. So we can see the material code EX101, and yeah, there's not much information about screws. You can write, I guess. We can also click on any materials inside this list, and it'll show us the quantity in warehouses, any requests, offers, orders, or material entries, as well as group infos that might exist for that specific material. So in this example, we can see there's 60 screws within the Kingston warehouse. We can also do material transactions. And what we can do is we can add incoming materials. So after adding a material to a list in the material list section, we can then add a shipment of materials to come in. And we can select multiple types of materials to ship in. So let's say the company is receiving a shipment of just screws. We can select that. So let's say a company is receiving a shipment of screws. We can select screws, and we can select. You can see all the information is already being filled out, and we can select the amount of quantity that's being shipped in. The unit price, we can select the last purchase price, or if it's purchased at a different price, it can be inputted there. We can select the currency it's in, as well as the units, and it'll show us the amount currently in warehouses. And after we confirm that, we can see it's been added to the shipment. And if we save it, we have a shipment of 10 screws coming in for today. Any information added to the material transaction list is displayed only for that day, and at the end of the day, those materials will be added to the warehouses, and it'll be removed and cleared for the next day. So moving on to the personnel module, we can see all the staff at hand inside the company. So we can add new people as required if staff has increased. So we can see their code and maybe their name. We can see their class, resource class, shift, the team they're part of, maybe where they work and which warehouse. We can see their shift. We can see personnel. We can see kind of resources, the status, as well as their work time. And we can add more information as required. And we can see on the list here, we can see a bunch of personnel. So we can see a few of them are part of the mechanical team and others are part of the transportation team. And you can see just all the information if we click on them. So we can see all information about them. It's also possible to view each personnel's calendar as well as the shifts they're working. So here we can select the user and maybe what shift they're working. We can select between day, their work week, their general week if they work on the weekends. We can select month or an entire timeline as well. It's also possible to compare them to other workers. So if you want to check that certain workers do not overlap with each other, you can use this comparison to check if there's any interference between their schedules. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please contact us.